Hello, morning. Welcome to this episode today. So this is a different episode. Last episode I dealt with the other things which we finished. It was a long episode where it took 3 episodes to finish on that topic. But now this is a new episode. I just want today to deal with something else. And because that other episode was so tiring, at least this one it can be short enough to deal with just a single character. So today I just wanted to talk about somebody, a very prominent figure who has helped the world who has shown the world an example of himself. We can't find like another leader like the person who I'm going to talk to today about. I'll tell you briefly the person who I'm going to talk about today, but I know already seen I know you have already known the person by the description on the video, which is there already on the description on the video. So let me just tell you the person who I'm going to talk about today. So the person who I'm going to talk about today is the great Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro is a great person, and that's why I just want to talk about, because he's a great man who has made history, and he has influenced history so much in this world of today. So today, as you can see, it is a bright Monday morning, and I don't know what about you. I don't know where in your country, what day is it. Maybe right now is at night, but today as I was shooting this video, it was in the morning. Everything was cool and chilly. People were waking up to go to work. Monday is usually people is when they go to work Mondays, but I hear other countries on Sunday people start doing work on Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday it is work. So for other countries, their weekend starts on Friday and Saturdays. That is their weekends. But for my country, basically the weekend starts on Saturday and Sunday. So when we come to Monday, Monday is officially work day. And Monday is the most crowdiest day of the week, because people are rushing to find out the week may have for them. And also people knowing that Monday people will come out. So they also try to go out so themselves, so they can find money from the people who are going out on that day of Monday. So today I just went to the office, I did some cleaning, and now I'm here trying to want to explain to you the story of the great Fidel Castro. And this story is just basically about my view and who I know Fidel Castro as. And I did some research over there, but was research for a long time ago. So this is just a basically combination of all the things that I've learned about Fidel Castro, and I want just to tell you about this man called Fidel Castro and how he evolved and how he was. So Fidel Castro was born in a country called Cuba. I know most of you don't know which country Cuba is. Cuba is a country which is in North America over there, where it borders these other countries. It is the main crop of Cuba is sugarcane. They keep sugarcane. Cuba grows a lot of sugarcane, and so this is their main export. They export sugarcane so much, and this was even before Fidel Castro was born, because Fidel Castro was the president of Cuba from that long time ago till even now. He has also kept his roots in the country of Cuba. So Fidel Castro wasn't, when he was born from a poor family, where his history says that he was a sugarcane farmer. The father was a sugarcane farmer who owned large acres of land, very large acres of land. So Fidel Castro, his inspiration for speaking up for people and being a revolution was just seen when he was a small boy. Fidel Castro, when he was a small boy, he used to refuse to go to even schools. He was a headache. And Fidel Castro, his mother explained to people that Fidel Castro was a person who will tell you, I'll do this, and he will do that. There's one day Fidel Castro told his mother he's going to burn down the school. And almost Fidel Castro did that, because Fidel Castro roots of being a revolution and being a rebel had just started from since he was a small child. So his mother was very cautious with Fidel Castro, because if Fidel Castro says anything, you must just look at him because he might do it. So from a young boy, this person was just a rebel from a young age. Fidel Castro, growing up in his farm, he saw workers being given low wages by his father. So he started grouping up with the workers of the farm and telling the father to pay them more, and also doing some small revolution for the workers in the farm, because he wasn't pleased with what the father was doing to those workers in the farm. So he used to speak up for those workers in the farm, and he used to ask himself, why do these people, workers who do lots of heavy work and also labor day and night, receive very small wages? So this also inspired him to speak up and be a revolutionary who we know of him today in this right now century. But many people don't know who Fidel Castro is, and many people don't respect Fidel Castro because they don't know his story and they don't know truly who he was. So I just wanted to explain to you why Fidel Castro is a man who should be respected, because he did a lot of things which some of things are never said, and some of things which are suppressed by some of these media TVs. But today I'm just going to explain you why this man deserves a lot of respect and why some people also give this man respect. So Fidel Castro, when he was growing up, he had some revolutionary on the farm which he lived, where the workers which were working for the father was a rich man. He had a very big farm. So Fidel Castro grew up in a well family. So Fidel Castro, and growing up, he went to school, and he also went to university. He was a bright boy. He used to very, very bright, and he was that bright boy who used to catch things very faster. So Fidel Castro, when he was in the university, when he went to the university, Fidel Castro main language he was learning about law. He wanted to become a lawyer. So Fidel Castro, when he was in university, he didn't used to attend university classes. What he used to do that time, there was a lot of chaos in universities, and university leaders used to be taken as serious people who had political power and political say in what the country should do. And those times were around 1930s, 1940s, where you can understand. It was almost ice age. It was back then time where there was no technology, but the technology of guns was there in that time, and technology of farming materials was also there. But that time you used to get things in black and white TVs. So most of the pictures of Fidel Castro is mainly black and white TVs. You'll see images of, even in your search on Google, you'll see many images of Fidel Castro many of them are white and black images. So Fidel Castro was in this school where he used to grow in university. He was, people described Fidel Castro as a quiet boy, but instead of going to classes and schools, he used to evade those classes and go to debate clubs, where he usually used to debate with kids in that university, and he also got into a gang of groups where that gang of groups also dictated what is happening in the politics. So he had to be rough to be accepted in that gang of group. Because if you wanted to be accepted in a gang of group in that university, you had to do some things which were to show yourself and to earn respect from the other peers of his people. So he was given some tasks to kill the other members of another gang group. So this he didn't manage very well to kill, but he was good. He also shot some fires in the other gang group. So this was also eminent in him when he was in university, and this gave him providence and gave him power, and the people looked upon how Fidel Castro used to do things. So Fidel Castro also enjoyed debating a lot in the university, and this gave him some prominence in his way of debating and how he used to be articulate and how he used to debate his things. So Fidel Castro, from a young boy, he used to be a rebel. He used to be a revolutionary. That character was also in him. So when he went to university, it also Now when he went to university is when the character appeared. And when I saw Fidel Castro when he was in university is when he used to now go into debates, and he started gaining political stability, and people started seeing him as a leader. He had a way of speaking where he would catch the attention of the listeners, and Fidel Castro used to have he was so charismatic that people usually said that this man he's appealing to the eyes, and his words are so appealing. Fidel Castro is a person who could speak to you, and the next minute you'll just change your mind, because what he says is the truth, and also what he says is it comes from the bottom of his heart. So most of the speeches that he made here captivated people and made people have the common ideas that he had. He had an idea of making the country a communist, where people will be. Communism is where you share the resources of the clan. You share the resources of everybody, and the government shares everybody resources. So that was his idea of communism, and this is something that the America didn't like. America didn't like the idea of communism in that country, because that time there was a war which was taking place between the America and the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union was a group of the communist party leader where they believed in communist, and also but America didn't believe in communist. So there was a clash of wars, because if Cuba could have been a communist region, then it means that its power will be headed by the Soviet Union. So America didn't want that. So America was opposing Fidel Castro so he can get that power from him, so that his country, which is heading, could be a communist region. So America did everything which is possible to make Fidel Castro not become that leader and he leads his country into communism. So at that time there was a president which was in Cuba called Batista. So Batista was heading the country of Cuba. So but time within time, Fidel Castro started gaining providence and he started gaining fame, where he decided to do a coup of the current president, which is Batista. Batista was usually helped by the United States of America. Batista was given everything that he needed by the United States of America so that they can help Cuba and also help Fidel Castro in what he was doing. So this Fidel Castro, when Fidel Castro now wanted to do a revolutionary on the current system and current regime, which he saw there had many problems in the countries. There was no food. There was also poor medical facilities. There were so many things that the country was lacking. So this caught Fidel Castro's eyes and decided to make a change. And by this making a change, he had to revolutionize the country. And that's why Fidel Castro is referred to as a revolutionary. He decided to do a coup of the current regime of Batista. He was the president of that time of Cuba. So Fidel Castro went into the forest to do where he grouped up with some people which you know of today as Che Guevara. Che Guevara grouped up with Fidel Castro. So Fidel Castro and Che Guevara headed the revolutionary, where Che Guevara used to be the executioner. Che Guevara used to be the one who was killing. Also, Fidel Castro did some killing, but Che Guevara was the one who was leading the killing. But Fidel Castro was the head of the revolutionary. So after days in the forest in Cuba, they were able to overturn and do a coup on the current president, who was Batista, and that's how Fidel Castro gained power and became the president of Cuba through a revolutionary coup where he overturned the current president of that state of Cuba. So when he overturned the state of Cuba, he started new laws of communism. People started communism. One thing that Fidel Castro refused, and he was So so he was hard-headed to listen to anybody. He refused the country of Cuba for being listening or listening to what America was trying to say. So America was trying to influence Cuba into doing things that it wanted, but this was something that from the start Fidel Castro had in mind, that America won't be able to influence its powers and or influence him to do anything which he doesn't want or feels right for the country, because many leaders in the world right now are influenced by these American countries and also do things that these American countries want. But Fidel Castro refused to be influenced by these people. So if he refused to be influenced by these people, it means that Fidel Castro will lack some things from these countries which he has refused help from them or has refused to be influenced by them. So Fidel Castro country was an outskirt, and it was made an outskirt by the USA. So USA did sanctions for Fidel Castro, where his country was sanctioned and things were not transported into the country, which was Cuba. So Cuba and USA, there was a lot of strife and there was a lot of tension in those two countries because of Cuba and Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro refused everything on what what USA was trying to influence him, because USA wanted to help Cuba, but within that help there will be some influence in power, because when USA helps with you with money and gives you money to build hospitals or to buy equipment, USA will try to follow up on the money that you did, and for you representing those books as one, USA will be able to read through what your current financial system is using on. So USA will be able, or the country which is assisting you will be able to see what you go through and what your books, how do you buy, how do you use money. So if any country decides to help you, they will have automatically access to what your country spends on and what your country does the most. So this is one thing that the president of Cuba refused to be done, and refused to be a slave of the USA. He declined every offer that the USA gave him to, so that the country of Cuba could be very well. So the country of Cuba, as you right now see, there are many Cuban doctors who are the best, had some of the best doctors in the world. Cuban doctors are very good in what they do, and many countries also hire Cuban doctors. This is due to when Fidel Castro was there, he made his regime that there was free medical cover for every citizen in the country, and also citizens used to get some free also services from the government, and this helped also the country to grow a lot, because if there is free medical assistance from the government, that means it was a healthy nation. So, but most of these equipments that the government had were outdated equipments. Although they were outdated, they used to do the job. But because Cuba had refused to be helped by the government of USA, that's why they had outdated equipment. But if they had collaborated with USA would have given them new equipments, better facilities. But when you go to the hospitals in Cuba, the equipments are basically old that time for Fidel Castro, because he had refused to accept what the USA did. So Cuba, through these sanctions, and one day Cuba was in a crisis. So what Fidel Castro did, he told the people in the country, he just sat down with the people in the country and told them, you know where we have come from, and you know where we are going to. So let us not have so much pressure on the government. Let us not, anyone who is feeling life is not for him, let him go to another country and live there. But the people who are strong, and the people who really know where we have come from, and the people who really know that slavery is bad and we should not go there, let them remain in this country and let us struggle as one. So that thing motivated a lot of people, because Fidel Castro used to speak as a leader. He used to speak as a person who loves his country. Fidel Castro was typical description of a leader, because he was every situation that was happening in the country, he used to take it as it is for himself, because the country was his, and that is how a president should represent himself. Because everything that was happening in the country, he was talking about it as it was his own problems, and he was taking the citizens of the country as his own children. So when he was speaking on these occasions, it touched a lot of people's heart and showed that this man is of solidarity. So anything that the country had faced, Fidel Castro used to come and give a speech and explain what is happening, and also gave a speech to convince the people that they should calm down, and also encourage people that we should not give up, because the USA had implied a lot of sanctions for them. The country was unbearable to live in. So the USA had squeezed their neck, so even the citizens in the country, the amount the standard of living in that country was very low, and people used to wonder, why are we suffering? But Fidel Castro told them it is better we suffer like this than anybody taking our freedom. Because if these people offered Fidel Castro or his country assistance, they will obviously take away their freedom. They will be able to dictate on what they do. And Fidel Castro didn't want this, so he standed with his people and explained to his people why people should not accept the help that is coming from this America, which he was completely refusing. So Fidel Castro opted to go for another method, where he opted and reached out to the Soviet Union. So they were making deals with the Soviet Union, and this also made America annoyed a lot. It also made America question themselves, because if you are making deals with the enemy of America, this caught the eyes of the United States of America, because Cuba was in a desperate position where it didn't have medical facilities, or it didn't have anybody to trade with. So it saw the easier route for trading was in the Soviet Union. And also at this time there was an existence of the Cold War. So this made also America uncomfortable of what was happening between the Soviet Union and the Cuban regime. So there is even one time where the Soviet Union used to transport nuclear weapons into Cuba, and this made they used to store their nuclear weapons in Cuba. So USA, what it had to do is write a memo to the Soviet Union itself, which is right now which broke apart and now became the Russia and different other countries like Ukraine and Crimea. So the USA had to write a memo to the Soviet Union and have a peace talk and tell them that they should cease this operation which they are having with Cuba, because Cuba is a threatening country, and Cuba is being close to the USA. This will also result to an exploitation to the security of the USA. So the USA had to write a memo personally to the president of the Soviet Union, so that he could stop this relation with Cuba, because no matter what the president of USA tried to do with Fidel Castro was very adamant, and he was very hard-headed. He didn't want to hear anything which the United States of America had to offer them. He stayed strong, and he stood his ground on what he wanted for his country and what he saw is best for his country. So even there were other times where Fidel Castro helped other African countries gain their independence. Even Fidel Castro helped the country of Congo in supplying them with weapons, where also Che Guevara went there to fight their Che Guevara. But Che Guevara is another different story. There were in today's images, you see two prominent people. It's either Che Guevara or Fidel Castro, but main people you see on the walls the image of Che Guevara. Che Guevara, I'll do it in another episode where we'll be talking about Che Guevara, but today I decided to talk about Fidel Castro. But Fidel Castro, you can't talk about Fidel Castro without talking about Che Guevara a little bit. So Che Guevara was also a prominent person who used to help Fidel Castro. So Che Guevara and Fidel Castro collided with ideas. Che Guevara wanted to take this revolutionary to other different parts of the world. He wanted to make all the world to be revolutionized and also be free out of this system of oppression. But Fidel Castro had something different in mind. He wanted to only help Cuba country and also was loyal to his country, Cuba. And taking this fight international will mean that the country of Cuba might become desolate, or also might become not existing, because taking the fight all over the world will drain a lot of resources from Cuba. So Fidel Castro stepped down and told Che Guevara, for my own, let me head just my country. This made Che Guevara Che Guevara wasn't happy with this decision. So Che Guevara and Fidel Castro a little bit broke, and Che Guevara continued with his own mission and went to Africa to do his own missions and to revolutionize all this, to revolutionize all the world. This was the idea for Che Guevara, but Fidel Castro he wanted to lead a country and lead it to greatness. So Fidel Castro, all this time long, the US was so squeezing this small country of Cuba, but Fidel Castro didn't give up. He continued encouraging his people and telling his people, even today, even when we are oppressed, and when food prices are so high and we have little food, because USA is the only country where they could access easily this food stuff and also could have traded them with the USA. But Fidel Castro, not wanting to give up his power to the USA and America, this made the USA squeeze Cuba and tried to squeeze Cuba out of his life. But the USA didn't manage to do that, because Fidel Castro remained strong and also encouraged his citizens, and Fidel Castro made his citizens as one and told them the goal which he had. Anything that Fidel Castro did, he did it for the betterment of his country as one, and also the betterment of himself, and is also his legacy. For his legacy, it basically means that the legacy of his country is well. If the legacy and the livelihood of the country is well, also his legacy is also well. So Fidel Castro encouraged his citizens, although life was hard. Even those other times where people used to migrate to other countries, were allowed to migrate to America, because the livelihood in Cuba was so much and it was so high, and the cost of living was so high. So people decided to go to America and to do their things there. Cuban citizens, even there was a time that the ships which were going to America, they were so loaded with people that even the ships were America to say this is enough, because the amount of people which were coming out of Cuba, it was so high. There was another time that there was a case between America and Cuba, where a small child had gone to USA, and USA started spreading news of this child, and the parents were still in Cuba. So the parents demanded for that child to come back to Cuba. So there was a little bit of quarrel in that regime of US, on that story where of that child, there was a little bit of quarrel. And Fidel Castro, being that hard-headed leader and being so strong in what he was saying, and having a vision which was caring for the US government to hear. He had a vision which was so true, and he had a vision for his country to become a big country. This also made USA view Cuba as a threat, and by viewing Cuba as a threat, they had to eliminate the threat. So they did a lot of assassination attempts on the president of Cuba. They did a lot of assassination attempts on Fidel Castro. Even there's many attempts where the CIA, which was the head of doing the assassination attempts for for Cuba, because the CIA also has done many assassination attempts on many people where we hear, but not many people want to accept the truth that it is truly the CIA, because there is no other department in America where it can be allowed to do such things, and the CIA is the head of intelligence in America. Then if there is another department in America which is doing this assassination attempts or doing this assassination, the CIA should be informed, because it is the Central Intelligence of America. The CIA knows why people are being killed, so CIA should itself know what is happening in America. And that's why people say that it is the CIA which kills these people in these areas, because how can you be the head of the country and not know what people in your country are doing? So the CIA knows what activities are happening to eliminate these prominent figures, and it is either keeping quiet, or it is the one which is doing it. So CIA has done a lot of has tried many assassination attempts on Fidel Castro, which all of them failed. Fidel Castro was also tried to be assassinated with cigars. He used to like smoking a lot of cigars. So his cigars once there was a CIA agent said the cigars were tampered with something. They were put poison on the cigars, where when he smoked, he will be choked and died. But most of these assassination attempts failed on this prominent figure, Fidel Castro. Many assassination attempts didn't go well, and there were more than 100 attempts on assassination on the life of Fidel Castro, but none of them was succeeded to kill Fidel Castro. So Fidel Castro, it was around 2000 he started becoming ill, and that time the Soviet Union had already broken. So the people of his country were asking, will this, because at that time also the standards of living were so high, there was a lot of pressure for Fidel Castro to get out of his power, and also to give up power to the USA. But he stands strong with the nation, and he maintained the same vision which he had from the beginning. So he was receiving a lot of pressure. Is he fit in mind to rule the country? Because Fidel Castro was getting old, and days after days his speech started deteriorating, and also what he was saying wasn't so good and sharp what he was saying. So his people in the country started questioning his ability to rule the country. But Fidel Castro managed to keep the country united, and also convinced its citizens not to give up, because standard of living was too high and things were happening and other countries were enjoying. So Fidel Castro continued reminding his country where they came from and how they struggled. So this made also the country remember where they came from. Because the country was facing a lot of problems even before Fidel Castro, and even worse problems. And at least right now, even though they are facing problems, they are free. They can do things on their own, without any supervision of America. Because if anything happens in your country and you give out your power to America, they can be able to come and investigate into your country, and investigate anything in your country. So the country of Cuba cannot be easily accessed by America, because that country doesn't have good relation, and also that country doesn't accept its treaties with the country of America, and doesn't collaborate with America. So at least they had freedom of doing anything they want inside that country, because they were living as a communist, and they had a strong leader like Fidel Castro. So Fidel Castro, in the late 2000s, he started struggling with his health. His health started deteriorating, and he wasn't so strong enough. So later on, Fidel Castro started ailing. Once he even had an operation where citizens of his country wondered, where has Fidel Castro gone? Because Fidel Castro had to appear every day and to encourage his citizens. This is one thing that I liked about Fidel Castro, his encouragement to the people who are in the country. He encouraged the citizens of his country. He encouraged them as the leader and as a father to the nation of Cuba. That thing. There are no many leaders who are able to die for their countries like how Fidel Castro can die for his country, because all this time long, for more than 50 years, Fidel Castro has held the power on himself. There has never been another president other than Fidel Castro in that country. And Fidel Castro has been supported by his people through his charismatic way of speaking, and also how he used to motivate people and bring out the best into people. So Fidel Castro, around the late years of 2000 years, 2000, in the late 2000, Fidel Castro started becoming sick. He underwent certain procedures of operation where the country was asking, where is Fidel Castro? Is Fidel Castro really going to stand with the country? Is Fidel Castro really going to finish the vision which he had for this country? So Fidel Castro told his citizens one day that no matter what, before I've ruled for 100 years and somebody else will rule for another 100 years. So you should not even be afraid, because this power which even if today I go or die, this power will also extend for another 100 years. This also encouraged the people of Cuba, and knew that the country of Cuba, or even though the president Fidel Castro is dead, the country of Cuba will also go into another 100 years being also self-sufficient, and also being the same which Cuba is today and still was long time ago. The vision of Cuba won't die just like that by corrupt leaders, or also the leaders giving up their power to America. This wasn't the idea for Fidel Castro, and he said clearly that even next 100 years, we won't give our power to America. We won't give up our fight to America, because America has denied them a lot of things. It has denied them facilities, trading inside the country. It has denied so much to them so that they can give up, but they didn't give up. Imagine a small country that like Cuba can stand up to a big country like America and still stand strong and in its ideas and what it says. So Fidel Castro, in the later 2012, he died around there. In the later years, Fidel Castro unfortunately succumbed to his sickness. He had some sickness due to his old age. He succumbed to it, but he left the power to his brother, who is leading the country right now. His brother, and his brother is also determined, like Fidel Castro, to make Cuba the country which Fidel Castro left, and also extend it for the longest time of years, and not give up their power to America, or give up their power to any other country to be their slave. So Cuba is great today because of this man called Fidel Castro, and that's why Fidel Castro is respected, and that's why I also respect Fidel Castro for his power and standing up for his people, and always encouraging his people like they were one type of people. He took his people like one, and he also helped his people like his own children. So that's why Fidel Castro is a great man, and there are many more other great men which I will discuss in more episodes, and that's why I respect Fidel Castro. And we also wish also the country of Cuba not to give up their fight, and also continue fighting for what is right. And much respect to everybody who has watched this episode, and I ask you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any other video which will be released about any person. So the next video, I'll also try to tell a story of somebody else, a prominent figure, maybe anybody else. I'll try to tell. There are so many prominent figures which I respect. So the next episode, I'll be doing this the same again, of a prominent figure, just a short story of how I view these prominent figures and how they are to me. I didn't look it up anywhere. This is just past research which I had done. This is just a story which just came out from me right now. So it is not, I didn't do so much research, but all this story that I've said is through what I know about Fidel Castro, and this is what Fidel Castro did, what I've told you today. So there are many more stories I'll be telling you about other prominent figures who helped the world and who I feel they should be respected and should be also, people should have knowledge about them and the things that they have been doing inside their countries and also other in different parts of the world. There's also many other people who have touched the different parts of the world, and I'll be talking about them in the other episodes. So this episode was purely dedicated to Fidel Castro, and respect for that man. I'll see you in the next episode.